Kia ora, and thanks so much for tuning into episode 73 of Access Granted, our weekly Kiwi tech and media podcast. I'm Raj. Who else would I be? Background in film, design, media, and making things happen.
And I'm Mike. Who else would I be? And my background is explaining stuff, connecting people, and getting things done. You're here, whichever here it happens to be.
On the newness or the oldness.
You might be on the hashtag me feed, or you might be on our brand new Access Granted feed.
That's right.
Welcome both. You're here because you're a Kiwi that either works in or has a great passion for tech or media in New Zealand. Episode 73 on our brand new feed, and we thought we'd have a rather special interview, and we were very lucky that Rad's tracked down Rod Drury, co-founder and CEO of Xero. I'm sure he doesn't, for most Kiwi tech people, need much of an intro, but he has worked in and made a massive difference to tech around, well, Wellington specifically, but also New Zealand, and he very happily sat down with us and took us through his story, where it all started, where it's going, and also his dreams and desires for Xero, which is...
that was very interesting.
Artificial intelligence, which is a fantastic interview, and we thank Rod for that, and for introducing our brand new feed. So, straight over to Rod.
Okay, we're here. We're here at Ground Zero.
Had to say it. Wait for that joke. Yeah.
We did actually try to call our cafe Ground Zero, but they got killed.
It did?
Yeah, but it was quite early when we did that. It was a bit too close to 9/11, so...
Yes.
Yeah.
Probably get away with it now.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I've only just made a connection. It's the end of the day, obviously. So that voice you heard there was Rod Drury, founder?
Well, there's about four of us in the beginning.
Yeah.
You know, me, Philip Furling, Hamish Edwards, Craig Walker, Fletch, Catherine Walker, Andy.
It gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Yeah, more and more.
Small flat.
Sat around, stared at each other and said...
Yep. No, we had a little flat in Willis Street. That was about 9 years ago.
Wow. Now, before we get into all that, Rod, we've got our opening question we ask everybody. What makes you happy?
Oh, stand-up paddleboarding. I was on last Friday. I was up in the Hawke's Bay, right out in front. It was just a beautiful little wave. I love that. So exciting.
I saw your tweet saying a couple of days ago,
Yeah.
oh no, we should have gone out in the harbour.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. But what about today? The wind's up.
Well, I used to windsurf, like 20s and 30s in Wellington. Windsurfing was great because it could be your full-time sport. One of the hard things, so I live in Hawke's Bay and just commute. We've got 20 offices now around the world, so we're always in the wrong place. You might as well live somewhere nice. But I love being in Wellington, so I usually here two or 3 days a week if I'm not travelling. And Wellington's awesome. Mountain biking, being able to paddleboard around the harbour. It's one of the few places in the world where you can actually... have that sports lifestyle right in the city. I mean, you can't do it in Auckland. If you wanted to go mountain biking in Auckland, you've got to drive for an hour first, right?
Yeah.
You're not talking my language about sports here, man. So, I'm assuming.
But you're in Miramar. Miramar has amazing tracks.
It does, yeah. Well, we've got Ben Wild and his wee crew out there just not hacking it all down, that's the wrong phrase, but yeah, they've done an amazing job, and now they're spreading out across the whole of Wellington, and with all the cycle money that's coming in as well, they're going to do some quite incredible things. But yeah, it all starts in Miramar, as we know.
Yeah.
That's where it all starts. But before that, so Rod, how did you get into IT?
I did computing at school. We had a really good teacher, Bob McCaw, who got us into Apple IIs. It's back in those days. So we actually had a scheme at Napier Boys High where... I think there were $1,200 for a computer, and each family could put in like $100, and then you had a share of a computer.
Oh, yeah.
I was thinking $100 must be a lot of money, like back then. Like this is 30 odd years ago, more. So yeah, so it was a huge amount of money. But anyway, I remember Mum picking me up in the Ford Escort, bundling the Apple II computer into the back seat, and going home, and just used to get these magazines out of the US with code things, and actually typing BASIC in to learn how to program.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that was the magic of technology. Then I went to university, and university it was all vaxxers and weird stuff. Didn't really get that. But what I found was I did an accounting degree, which turns out to be actually that was quite a good idea. Forgot I had an accounting degree, but it looks good now. But there were these internally assessed papers, and my only criteria for really doing those internally assessed papers is I could go skiing in Queenstown faster. I'd never actually seen the snow at that point, but I had this thing that'd be good to go and, be good to go down there and go snowboarding. So I picked these papers on the basis of them being internally assessed, and it was information systems before information systems was its own thing.
Yeah.
And we had a lecturer, Dr. Kay McCauley, who was CEO of Standards, I think, a few years ago, and she was doing information engineering. And this must have been like even before OS2, but there was first time I was seeing sort of graphical user interfaces showing pictures of how you draw business objects, so we see relationship diagrams, those sort of things.
Yeah.
And I was fascinated by that you could actually draw pictures of business. So when I did my season at Coronet Peak, and then was either going and keep going with all the ski people you met to go to North America, or actually I ended up going to Auckland, and went and worked for Arthur Young, because Arthur Young at that time was all about information engineering, so I had to do a full year of audit. But the day my audit thing was up, I taught myself into being a junior IT consultant, and did a bit in Auckland, did a bit of Wellington, and there was a real hotbed, must have been in the very early 90s, of information engineering. And then I met Tony Stewart, who I started Glazier with, who's doing work for us now at Xero. And he was on the Ernst & Winnie side, I was Arthur Young, we merged, became EY. And we used to spend our weekends, Visual Basic came out, I was playing with Smalltalk, didn't really understand it, don't now. But Tony was good on Visual Basic, so got me into that. Then we saw D-Base drivers, then we saw the beta of Access. We started a software development team in EY, Auckland and Wellington, and then Access came. Access was getting really good then. And there weren't really any software companies, so Tony and I and a couple of other guys started Glazier Systems and kind of went on from there.
So you sort of, and not fell into it, that's unfair, isn't it? You just sort of went with each step, and as it grew, you went with it.
Yeah, and especially through Glazier. So we were, first of all writing, Visual Basic, just little forms. Then with Access, we could actually take the end results of information engineering, data models, entity relationship models, and actually build them in Access. Remember, you could sort of paint tables and those things. And it was quite amazing. We built hundreds and hundreds of Access apps around Wellington and in Auckland, and it made you actually really good at programming because you understood the data structure, but it also made you really good on the analysis side because you had to actually implement it. So I think part of what made us pretty good at what we were doing was that we had that formal information engineering background, but then Access was this really cool magical tool where you could build these really great workgroup database apps. And then SQL Server came out, so it became kind of client server. Then active server pages, I was on the beta of that. That was called Denali back in the day. And then suddenly we could build applications on the web that no one had to log into. And from the heritage of building, really hundreds of bespoke business apps, running business apps on the web, and then that just got bigger and bigger and bigger.
And Glazier, we were just saying as we come across it, and there was someone stood in front of us at the lights and they had an Intergen thing on them. That Glazier is now
Intergen, and Tony's just sold it.
Yeah, that's right.
Again.
Yes,
so well done.
That's the way to do it, isn't it? So
but what's neat about that is if you track back, a lot of the Xero staff were back in that kind of earlier Glazier crowd. So we took business graduates who hadn't done a lot of programming because Access and Visual Basic was pretty easy, and got them building apps. And so a lot of things, so like David Tenhave was there, Mason from Provoke and all of those people, they were out of us. Data Squirt, quite a few people went through that sort of EY or Glazier family.
Because I came here in 96, and so Glazier be gone by then? Or
I think we sold it in around... No, I think we started about 95, 96, and we sold it in 99 the first time to Advantage.
Because I remember everyone talking about Glazier, and there was this sort of, that's an ex-Glazier person, or that's someone who came from... It was like this was the bud of all consulting and IT in Wellington almost. Everyone had this connection back to this root of this tree.
Yeah, I think it's because we were one of the first kind of software companies. So we weren't like a software product company, we were like a bespoke solutions company.
Did it for you,
and this was just after sort of Visual Basic and Access came in. So there were certainly lots of IT companies before, like Trilogy and all sorts of names from the past. But we were the first ones on that kind of full Windows thing. So the technology provided, and the people and technology came together, and then we went from 7 of us on day one to 60, and so we hired, and I think we had probably about 200 people who'd been through the business in that time, and lots of graduates. So we got people from sort of business business qualifications coming in and writing software, and that, you know, and they're obviously ambitious people, and it's gone on and on.
So taking the businessy side of people and then applying them to IT as opposed to getting an IT person and trying to stuff business into them, is that a thing that you've done? That's an approach of yours, is that, or that?
That's what we did back then, because, you know, because programming changed a lot when Windows came along, right? It was actually, you know, more kind of painting applications. It wasn't assembler programming.
Yes.
And if you kind of understood business and, you know, knew a bit about databases and could write queries, it was pretty easy to paint forms and access and then SQL Server and all of that. So, yeah.
Wow.
So there you were.
So the ecosystem started from Glacier.
Or one of the,
Yeah, one
you were
of
the modern kids on the block, the new kids on the block doing the modern stuff.
30 years ago,
Yeah.
Oh, well, you know, you're still seen as that, mate.
Yeah. Well, I was 25 from Glacier,
Yeah, exactly.
Bit scary.
And they've flogged it, sat around and went, what should I do now?
Yeah, so Tony actually kept it. He actually ended up working inside it and brought it back, and that became Intergen. I think he started at that time when he brought it back. There was 35 staff, and they sold it with about 400. So awesome story. And then for me, I went and did a few other things, did some work in the States, and then did Aftermail on the board of Trade Me, and then started Xero.
Yeah. So Aftermail, that was so.
That was an email archiving product.
That's right, yeah, and I remember using that actually. Do you sit around and going, I'm just going to think of a thing to do, or how did that appear?
No, all the things we've done have been around problems that we personally had. So when we started Glacier, that was because we wanted to have a software company. There weren't any to go and work for, so we had to start our own.
Yeah.
With Aftermail, it used to bug me that email was locked in a hierarchical data store. And that was just bad timing. The history of that, remember Microsoft Access was JetBlue and JetRed, and it was an ISAM, index sequential access method data store, and Access was just in its infancy. Microsoft was working with Sybase, and that was kind of the same product. And the Exchange team must have grabbed the Jet engine, one of them, and they forked it and implemented Exchange in a very relational way. So remember, you had to compact Exchange stores, same as with Access. And so they took a relational database platform and actually made it hierarchical, because people thought about mailboxes and folders. And that was the problem with email. It was stuck in a hierarchy, and it always bugged me that Microsoft never delivered Exchange over SQL Server. And so what we did, working with a guy, Mike Upshon, was we basically built a relational model of email and then wrote connectors that journaled data from Exchange into SQL, exploded it into a single instance store. So we saw our store of data, when it was properly normalised, it was down to about 15% of what a normal Exchange store would be, and it was a flight data recorder when Sarbanes-Oxley was starting to happen. And you could sort of link into it like a CRM system, because all this information was now discoverable because it was inside a relational database. So when we started Aftermail, the goal was never to actually build a long-term company. It was actually to prove that we could build a global product. So we did sell that within 2 years to Quest, which has now been sold to Dell. But we, the most exciting thing about Aftermail is we won Best Exchange Product at TechEd Orlando that year, which proved to us that we could actually build world-class software. And that gave me the capital to do Xero.
And that was another problem that you had waiting to be scratched. I remember...
So when we were doing Aftermail, I actually wrote an accounting software before we did Aftermail, but I didn't have the money to do it properly because it's a big investment, and also it didn't feel like a build and flick. So I'd seen the trade sale model of making money in technology, build up a company up and selling it, and realised that US public software companies have to buy small companies. So Aftermail was designed, as I said, not as a long-term business, but we designed that to actually sell it, and we sold it within 2 years it was 15 million US in cash and 20 million in potential earnout, of which we got none of, which was really interesting. But it was still a great deal at the time. It was very fast. And then that gave me the capital to do Xero, which I never saw as a build and flick. It was more, now we've got the capital, let's build a long-term sustainable business, which is why we floated it and did all that stuff early.
That's amazing.
But why, apart from the fact that, of course, now we know that you're a fully fledged accountant and have the degrees to go with it, why an accounting package?
Oh, well, because when I was doing Aftermail, we were using MYOB and had seen Sage and seen QuickBooks, and with all the innovation that was happening in the consumer internet, these desktop applications looked, pretty dated and pretty homemade. So, and it was clear that the really big boys in tech hadn't been into that small business space. And what the cloud did, building these web applications with ASP and those sort of technologies fundamentally changed the cost model, the distribution model of getting out to small business. And we realised that accounting really was the killer app. Everyone does accounting, you can choose to use software or not. And so it's the beachhead application to bring small businesses online. And also it was really a once-in-a-lifetime land grab. If you've got small business data sitting on individual PCs, it's not that interesting. But if you bring it into your store and clean up that data, it's pretty cool. So, now we're at zero, 9 years later. We processed $300 billion of transactions last year. 20 billion businesses, 20 million companies interacted on our platform. And, we'll do 200 million of revenue this year. So.
Yeah.
What else can you do with that data? It just boggles your mind, eh?
But you'd only use it for good. So our goal is, we want better schools and hospitals. Small businesses are the biggest contributor to GDP, but no one's been able to really work with them at scale. So now that we have this aggregation, the data's interesting, but it's actually what we can do with our 500,000 small business customers. So, for example, I was at the B20 event in Sydney a year before last, and the number one issue from all the international delegates there was youth employment. So we go, we have graduate programs and internships, so we're good at our part, but there's actually not many zeros, there's not many large companies that can have those programs. And we thought about, well, actually, if youth employment's the issue, how do we deal with it at zero? And it was really clear. We actually light up our now 500,000 customers. So if small business can add half an employee or a full-time person, that actually moves the needle at scale. So what we've done is first of all, we've communicated to our accounting partners and our small businesses that youth employments get sold by small business. We've done guides for each country, which this is what minimum wage is, youth employment, minimum wage, what living wage is, what probation periods are and how to use them, where to find young people, how to manage young people. And what we'll do over the next year, hopefully, is actually some calculators where people with their own numbers can see what it would be like to add a part-time person or create a new youth job. So at scale, we can actually hit some of these big social issues.
That's cool.
Why?
Because you only have one life, so you may as well do something purposeful. And I think, when you're a small software company and a small company, you think, government, help me. You get up to a certain point, like we're at, where that's actually more of a peer. So we're doing a lot of work with IRD, trying to take money out of their budget because the taxpayers, we don't want them to waste money. But also we want to make things much easier for small business owners because that does actually grow the economy. But then you kind of realise that they can only move so quickly. And, we'll spend $300 million this year, so we can use that investment to do really good things for our country and the countries we're in and actually move things forward, which is the excitement and why I'm all in on Xero for a long, long time, is we can actually do really exciting, important things. And, when you're lying on your deathbed, that would be, I would think, a very satisfying thing to look at and said you actually made a difference.
Quick break.
Don't want to take you guys off Rod's fantastic interview too long.
It gets quite intense. It's quite good.
We have got Friday the 4th is the co-hosted event. I'm not sure how many tickets we've got left actually, but I'm sure we haven't got that many. It's a free event. It's being hosted here in Wellington. All the details are on our website now, and also on our co-hosters, which is Hack Miramar and Geek Zone. And you will see all the prizes that have been garnered from Geek Zone, which is fantastic.
Yes, he's done a lot of work.
He has. Mary Show is awesome. And we've also got, the venue and our sponsors. And so our podcast sponsors, Capiche Design.
And all accounted for.
They are helping sponsor the event. And also, you'll see all the other sponsors on our website, which is fantastic. So thank you to them. Hopefully we'll see you for our event on Friday the 4th of December. And now we'll get straight back to Rod.
Back to the paddleboarding Rod.
It's an unusual attitude, though.
No, I don't think so. I think if you think about entrepreneurship, so the first thing with entrepreneurship is you want to make some money and buy your beach house and your silly cars. Once you've done that, what's next? Well, you actually want to work with really fun people, and you actually want to make a big difference. So the ultimate journey of entrepreneurship is philanthropy. We actually give it away again and do some really good things. So why wouldn't you do that as part of your normal business? And in, we're up to over 1,300 people now, so we have a diverse workforce, and most people have a social conscience. So a faceless corporation doesn't really exist to our view. It's actually made up of a collection of individuals, and all of them have, or most of them, have a very strong social conscience. So if they can do things that make the world better, and they do it while they're earning good money and having some fun, well, that's a very sustainable thing.
Mm-hmm. That's a great way to work. It's a fun way.
Well, it's just common sense.
Yeah,
the issue with common sense is
it's
not that common. That's the problem.
Well, that's what you find is as you have more and more success in business and you meet lots of more companies, it's amazing how corporates move from a collection of individuals to this kind of thing which isn't a collection of individuals. And that's our challenge as we get bigger, is how do we keep our culture so we live our values and we do the right thing and it's sustainable for everybody and all that.
Is it a challenge now? Speed wobbles and is it not constant?
Well, I mean, so being a public company means you're on a merry-go-round, you can't get off, so it's not unstressful. It's pretty busy. You certainly got the Bunsen burners in your toes, which means you'll be more aggressive than what New Zealanders are normally are, because we get judged personally, very personally, every 6 months, and as we move to the US, it'll be every quarter. So that drives a sense of urgency to get stuff done. But no, we don't see too many speed wobbles because we've got great people and we've got a good plan, we've got plenty of capital. So there's always lots of little mini crises going on, but generally, you make sure you minimise those. And actually, having done this for 20 plus years, there's not many surprises. It's all the people stuff. Oh, yep, that situation happening again. It's really interesting actually when you compare New Zealand entrepreneurs. Normally you don't smack it out of the park on your first deal, so you've done a few different things. So like a lot of our leadership team is late 40s, even 50s, so you've actually got a lot of experience. And often what I've found the last few years working with other peer companies in Silicon Valley, the founders under 30 or 35, you've actually got double the working experience. So it's very rare you get a situation where you don't know what to do. It's quite common, you just see patterns and
So there's the culture and the growing of the organisation. What's it like for you? How are you changing and growing with this as well? What's your not personal goals, because that's between you and your board that you're stepping on, but for Xero and where do you want to see yourself? Not with Xero, but where do you want to see Rod in 5-6 years time?
Yeah, so. We could have sold.
Question,
it's a good question. So we could have sold the business, any time on our journey, after we IPO'd any time. So, and a lot of people said because we'd sold businesses before that must be what you're doing. Well, no. Once you kind of get up to level 10, then level 11 presents itself, and it's like, oh, there's the next thing. So what I'm really enjoying is that, what we were talking about before, we can actually make a positive difference on stuff. And we have this fantastic group of people that are all developing and coming through as well. So we've had, people that have joined us as graduates, they're now having children, we're seeing they become leaders in their own right. We're dealing with some of the best companies in the world, Apple now, Square, all the large banks in the markets we operate in. It's really fun, and it's sport. So I think also coming from a small set of rocks in the South Pacific, you kind of have this chip on your shoulder of trying to prove ourselves globally. So we want to be a globally admired business that originated in New Zealand. We don't think of ourselves as a New Zealand business anymore because, probably 60-70% of our staff are offshore now. So we actually aren't a New Zealand business anymore, but we certainly have New Zealand values that we've translated around the world. And we're this kind of, what Chris Liddell says, we're this mini multinational. So multinational from day one that operates quite differently. So we're not, while the US is an important market for us, we're not a US company. We're not pretending to be a US company. We're actually a global company, which gives us a lot of strengths against the US-centric companies we compete against. Yeah.
How do you find playing in other markets, especially the ones that are reasonably far away and you've got to travel to all of them? Because we spoke to Vaughan at Vend, and he wants to set up an office wherever he wants to go visit, but that's a different story. But how do you find working and trying to get into these countries? Was it hard to get in initially?
Yeah, no, it's really hard work, and that's the hard thing doing this from New Zealand is that, it's a lot of time away from the family and doing those things. So the sustainable model is building, really good leadership in each country. So I actively try not to be the hero in each of our markets. Our country leaders are, which is kind of hard to do because of the kind of US founder culture. They want to speak to the founder. Well, the founder's the flake that waved their arms around at the beginning and could tell a good story. But actually what happens is you've got to operationalise all of that stuff. So it's not like one person driving the business. The reason you see me waving my arms around is because we have a great leadership team, operating team. So that's the hardest thing. And what I'm doing now, so turning 50 next year, I was in Hong Kong earlier this year, and you realise that all the young business development people are in their 20s. So I don't want to hang out with people in their 20s. They want to go out and drink. I want to go and have a cup of tea and lie down, right? So actually, one of the big realisations for me is, why am I at this conference? We're talking to all the companies anyway. Our young business development guys are the right people to talk to their young business development people, and they can go out and drink and do whatever they want to do. I'm actually not adding any value here. And so what I'm trying to do is to focus on the bits that I really like, which is the product strategy, driving product features in, product marketing, and just automating the machine. So and then getting the other leaders in the business who young people want to, in their 20s and 30s, they want to travel. So we have lots of people doing the OE Inside Zero, lots of inter-office sharing to create culture, and those that want to go and travel. But for me, I'd actually rather be in Wellington a few days a week, get around the world, every 3 to 6 months, and spend as much time at the beach as possible.
Well, that's not quite what it's all about, but yeah.
But
it's very like the thought of being at the beach full time doesn't appeal at all. Like after Christmas holidays are great, I love that, but then everyone goes back to work and there's no one to play with. So, having a few days every few weeks is great, but actually working is fun. So if work doesn't feel like work, then you can do it forever.
Yeah. So it's not a fade out. It's just
no, I'm not fading out at all. I want to. I've got better people doing the bits of the work that they're better at, and I can do the bits that I want to do, which is work with the product teams and design teams and invent the future. And then I'm really excited about marketing automation. So, we passed 100 million of revenue last year. We're up past 200 million annualized now. So we'll do over 200 million this year. How do we get to 1 billion and do that in a hyper-efficient way using servers, not people? That's a huge mental challenge, which is exciting.
And is that what your focus is?
Yeah. Get to 1 billion of revenue.
Yeah. Through the...
And that sounds like crazy talk, right? When you're sort of saying 1 billion of revenue, that sounds like an evil genius. Well,
sounds just about as crazy as having a place on Wall Street making a software app.
Yeah. We're like 200 million. Like 200 million of revenue from a company that didn't exist 9 years ago. And that's really early. So we will get to 1 billion of revenue, but if we can do that really fast, that would be good.
Then you get to the next stage.
Yeah.
Stage 12.
So what's the big dreams, the big things that you're going to put in? This is not some sort of scoop. It's just we're heading towards.
So we talk about internally. We're at the end of the beginning. So we only ever saw online accounting as a temporary product category. So the tickets to the game is a couple $100 million of investment to build a horizontal global accounting engine. Mm-hmm. So we've done that. 500,000 customers in 180 plus countries, and that's working. Basically, taking the features of accounting and doing it on the web, so it's anywhere access and it's a bit more beautiful. It's better designed. But now we've got these amazing servers that sit under the business. People are still, even though our bank rec is really cool and that was a game changer, why are we doing a bank rec? We already know how you're going to code it because we've seen how you coded it before. So to now applying machine learning over what we have is good. So I love watching all the big keynotes, and my favourite one this year was the Google I.O. keynote, where they peeled back. They do 19 layers of machine learning to get the results. Well, we're in a much smaller domain with much more strongly typed data. So the ability for us to do even basic machine learning is just easy and huge. So we've got teams working on that sort of stuff at the moment. So we just think we can automate all the things.
All the things.
Life becomes easy.
I think there's a show title there.
Yeah.
Automate all the things.
I like it.
Yeah. So what should happen? I mean, when you see those envisioning videos, when the person wakes up in a chic apartment and starts shaving on the mirror, and the mirror's got all the data telling you what's going on, that's what we're building.
Yeah.
So accounting and that bookkeeping, that connectivity between businesses should be all machine to machine, and we just alert the human what they need to know, actions to move forward. So we think we can just move that all to the background.
Is there a science fiction or comic book analogy? And the reason I ask for that is whenever I try and talk to my wife about that sort of stuff with Google, I always go, well, they're aiming for the Star Trek computer.
Yeah.
She goes, oh, I get that.
It's like Jarvis to me.
Otherwise, it's just, I don't know what you're trying to say.
Isn't that close, though? Like with the new Siri, and you forget to use the stuff, right? I was driving around with the family, and I was about to, I wanted to get a playlist on, and then I realised I was just thinking about stuff, and hey Siri, now you don't have to push the button because it's got this new chip that's listening all the time. Because I remember the article was, is everything you're saying being hoovered up by the offshore computers?
You just triggered it, and you probably just triggered it on a bunch of iPod.
Yeah, I did. We just started. I didn't quite get that.
Yes.
But I could ask for a playlist while I was driving and play it. That is like the machine.
Yeah.
So the bit we're missing out is, remember the tomorrow people being able to jaunt and be somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
That would be cool.
If you can sort that out, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, you went all Kiwi at me there. I think I have no idea what that one is. Is it a Kiwi thing?
Tomorrow is an English program.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
They made an American version recently.
Yeah. The tomorrow people was like 80s, 70s, 80s.
All right.
And I had this biocomputer called, was it Hal?
No.
Tim.
Oh, I can't remember his
Tim
name.
was the computer.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll call him Tim.
And they had these cool belts, and you'd push down on the belts, and you would jaunt to another place.
Like,
Transporting.
Transport,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool.
Are you working on that as well?
No, we're not.
Just down in the basement somewhere.
Because that would be
But
cool.
speaking of things to work on, I mean, people say, look, who you're really excited about. I mean, what, did you read the Elon Musk book?
Yeah.
So he's doing, Tesla, which is amazing, that Model X, just so cool. And I didn't realise actually SpaceX was the big thing. I thought SpaceX was the toy, but actually that's the big thing. Then doing Solar City, and what's the other one?
Oh, the chutes, the rail chute thing.
Yeah, I think he actually gave that to someone else to do.
Yeah.
But anyway, all around this theme of big hardware with beautiful software and actually stuff that's moving forward. So after you read those books, you feel a bit worthless about just doing software.
Yeah.
But I don't like hardware. Hardware's too hard. Yeah.
Well, I used to say that as well. If you could touch it, it's not for me.
Yeah.
No, I don't know what that's all about.
You still into your segways?
No.
It's all gone now?
No, funny though, I did have a Segway. We got that because Steve from Apple, the other Steve, Wozniak was down. So we got those to play, and we played them up in Silicon Valley, which was good. We got beaten up there. And then the Yike bike came along, and I was, the guys said, you have to get one of those, so you have to support Kiwi things. I got a Yike bike, which I didn't really like in the end. But then the jetpack arrived, and I must have been right on the top of the CRM system of, has Segway, has Yike bike, he's absolutely going to buy a
jetpack.
Buy a jetpack, but no, I'd fall off my skateboard, so it was good. Actually, the coolest thing I got this year was my boosted electric skateboard. That is cool.
Oh, yeah.
No, go on then. What, electric skateboard?
Yeah, it's 20 miles an hour. You can pick this thing up.
I see that and think, just walk.
Yeah, but
No, walk when you can skate.
Yeah, like Norris Barbers is the perfect distance for it. It's too short to taxi and it's slightly too far to walk, but it's like 4 minutes on the skateboard.
That's what it's about.
There you go.
Inner city living.
Well, there's the reason for it all. So big things, growing business exponentially, going,
Making the
but
big
all
machine.
Hawke's Bay.
Well, yeah,
That's home, that's right, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's been interesting over the last 2 years. I definitely feel global. Like I've had 2 months of not hard travelling, just a bit of Australian stuff, just timing of stuff. But I was travelling like every month. I was in San Fran, and like Vaughan travels more than I do, or as much as I do. You do actually feel really global, and it's quite cool. I think we appreciate it more. So you appreciate going and seeing what happens with scale, but then coming back here, you love that it's so easy and simple. But one of the things that's really bugging me is that we're missing this massive opportunity as the world just got really small. We are the country that's furthest away from anywhere else, and it really bugs me. We don't have a technology strategy. As
a country,
yeah. We're going to lose our payments network. The domestic debit's moving to scheme. We don't have an international connectivity strategy. We're not leveraging our free trade agreement with China. We should be the gateway between US and China for technology.
Yeah.
We should be the best at online education. We're already really good. We've almost using the market to provide education and systems, and that's admired all over the world. But we're not leveraging that with what's happening with iPads and the internet into schools. We should be building great education businesses out of here. With health, we had Orion, who were 9 times oversubscribed in their IPO, proving that people will fund these sort of businesses, to build really cool apps. And so we should be using Orion and the New Zealand health system to build expertise in even greater companies, around the stuff we're doing. So with every part of the economy, we should be the best at it. So what we're ensuring with Xero is that New Zealand is the best business to government, small business sort of poster child of using technology in small business, because at 25% of all businesses on the platform, we're the most online country.
Yeah. When you say we, and that's a global...
Xero, us, yeah.
Oh no, before you said we should be...
New Zealand, yeah.
But who New Zealand?
Well, all of New Zealand.
Or the government, or...
So I like this idea of a chief technology officer for New Zealand, and it's not the internal CTO of the government. That's not the point. The point is that the technology companies are going to spend together hundreds of millions of dollars in New Zealand. We'll spend 300 million this year in investment all around the world. So there must be, with our product here, over 100 million. So if you start aggregating that up, and you have an independent person, sort of like a Ralph Norrisy type person, who sort of made their money, wants to give some back, a global New Zealander, understands technology, and you'd say, look, these are the 5 to 10 things that as a country we should be working on, and then report to Cabinet, like the Peter Gluckman model for science, that these are the things we're working on. I've listened to the industry, here's all the vested interest, we're going to line it up, and we're going to report back how we get on these big things. And it's just frustrating. We've got a very commercial government, but just hasn't fired on technology at all.
Is this still a learning thing for big government? They're still trying to get to grips with it?
No, they've decided not to do it. It's a crazy thing. I don't know why. You should be talking to them.
We should ask them.
Yeah. We'll get them on next. The government.
Well, that's local in Wellington as well. They've done the same here in the regional and central. It's all the way up. And it seems to be all of the place. It's like, I don't know, you're right. Oh, it's too hard or something. Or
how do we grow the pie?
It's not cows. I don't know. It's something that's...
Well, the government doesn't have the answer. The government should harness the expertise that we have. So, what we're asking them to do is, like we had the Job Summit, which was a great idea, and that was actually a really good way to get all of New Zealand together. The trade unions were there. I mean, the Cycle Way was the headline idea that came out, but the key thing was it actually built great relationships in our small country. So why don't we have a little technology summit where we agree these are the 10 priorities. So like domestic debit, we are about to lose our fantastic FPOS network to the credit card schemes because contactless payments has disrupted it. We're trying to put pressure on the banks to deliver the ability to pay with your FPOS so the money moves on your mobile phone. We need that. If we don't do that, then everything becomes a credit card transaction, which is a 3% inflation to every small business. And we lose that direct payment capability, which is one of the neat things about banking in New Zealand. I used to be the test lab for this stuff. It used to be the test lab for the cell phone carriers. Facebook already does a lot of stuff in New Zealand. They do a lot of testing of things down here. So we should, across all of our things, be that test lab. They test snow tyres down in Cadrona, right? So we should be there. We should be thinking about 4 or 5G. We should get our international connectivity sorted. We should be... the test lab for an electric car, flip the feet strategy. We're 90% plus renewables. We should be pitching to General Motors, Mercedes, all these people to... we'll be the test lab to build the systems, the billing, the distributed infrastructure. Those are the things that we are ideally positioned for. So it won't take long to fill a page with 10 big technology strategies for New Zealand.
I mean, particularly some of the work we've been doing with the company around the driverless cars and those things. That's a discussion I know that is happening.
Yeah.
But the thing that I miss, and you delivered there, is the passion to go, let's do it. It's the passion, and it's very much a business case orientated thing. It's very much
Well, almost like prove it before you
right, yeah, almost to prove it before
we actually need leaders to do it, right? And the problem is in New Zealand, you put your head up too much, it gets chopped off. So because we're a public company, I have to keep putting my head up because that's my job. But that's what you need. You need someone to say, I'm going to drive this through and get passionate about it. And that's what we kind of miss in New Zealand. A lot of those people just end up getting pushed offshore. And I see how it happens because you do take so much shit, you know. But anyway, I don't care. So those are the things these are the big things that we could and should be doing. And what a huge amount of fun to do that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Right, doing it next week.
All right.
Yeah.
Put on the
So, come on then. It's almost a pointless thing to say. Where can people find you online?
Twitter, at Rod Drury.
You don't blog anymore? Oh, you do blog. But
I
you
blog
Zero,
sometimes
don't
on
you?
that. No, I do. I used to blog on my own thing, but it just came to too many people with comments trying to sort of hang on, so in the end I moved that on. I really like Twitter though. I think Twitter's got a lovely mathematical thing where people you engage with and must actually find people that you do really enjoy their humour. I find it like Twitter's like a long running gag on, like you can, for the naughty children who get to play this game all the time. It's quite funny, but it's really interesting. What I learnt through the flag thing, the flag panel, and we learnt this in the election last year, right, that actually Twitter is extremely left, and it is a bit of an echo chamber. So, one of the things that we realised when we did the work around consultating, I think we did a good job at reflecting actually what we were told going out talking to communities, which was quite at odds to what you would see reading through social media. So that was quite an interesting thing for me, is actually realising that a large chunk of New Zealand is just not engaged in that forum that we're having a lot of fun on.
Yeah, particularly Twitter.
Yeah, but Twitter's so easy and it's good, but it's I think actual real people are working.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, whenever I say Twitter, anybody who knows me, it's not.
But it is humour. The political stuff annoys me, and it's sort of frustrating. It can be kind of fun, but actually, it's the human interaction and just being able to quickly discuss things that are going on.
Yeah, as in last week when Rod said, "Now I've got you online, can we go have a chat?" And I was like,
here we are.
There we are. Exactly.
It's interesting you say that thing about electric cars. Just going back to that again, because I see this really interesting bifurcation. So this driverless car thing makes no sense to us in New Zealand because we're thinking about how we drive to work and being going to the beach in the weekends. If you're in San Francisco and New York, you're sitting in these massive things. You actually don't leave those places for a year. You don't want a car. You don't want to own a car. So I think what we're seeing is this quite a different attitude. Their driverless cars make a whole lot of sense in those densely populated places, but countries like New Zealand doesn't quite make as much sense. So yes, you might have a fleet of kind of Uber style cars which would be useful in the big city, but actually that won't replace our normal transport. It is actually completely transformational in a large city.
Yeah,
it makes no sense. I had a really interesting dinner in Sydney a couple of weeks ago with the head of Google X, and they were saying, if you take a photo looking at the freeway when it's packed, it's like it's 6% space utilisation. So if you can make it get to 14%, you've actually fixed all the traffic problems, and just by having a network of cars all talking together, you can quite easily do that. So it's going to be fascinating.
Oh, you've been talking to some of the people in Miramar again, going, well, we could trial this stuff. Exactly that. Don't have a car, and then just push a button and where do you want to go?
Have a car.
Yeah.
And it's that get rid of a car. You don't own it. A community-run car system.
Oh, I mean, I love cars, but it's crazy. They sit unused 99% of the time, ticking off insurance and costs, speeding ticket. Actually, my sister-in-law, and she came back from overseas, and this was like 5 years ago. She said, "Actually, I'm not going to buy. I'm just going to use taxis," because she added it up. She just calls a taxi, and it goes. Now it's just Uber.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of our young people, they're actually attracted to an asset-light lifestyle. We don't own anything. It's just a burden.
Yeah.
But for me, I love the V8.
Yeah. I'm not a petrol head, and I don't want to own bricks and mortar either. I don't want to own a house. But that's a different discussion with my wife. So where they can find you online, Twitter?
Twitter Rod Drury on the Zero blog. Sometimes at Twitter's, I'm pretty active on there.
And what's the between now and the Christmas time? What's the thing that you want everyone to know? Well,
Zero's cheap at the moment. I buy some shit.
Oh, well, you got that.
No, I mean, for us, what we're looking forward to, we've got just so much innovation that we're dropping, just so much software. That's kind of exciting. So we're now that we've kind of done the boring stuff, we can really start changing the game. So you'll see a huge amount of innovation from us over the next 6 months, which will just, already the cadence that we're developing software is so much faster than the industry's seen. So for us, we actually get to redefine the product category over the next 6 months to a year. And that's going to be really fun. And then, looking forward to Christmas and being at the beach. And we're a 24/7 business, so there's really no days off. But I love being at home over summer, going out for a surf, doing conference calls. It's pretty special.
Excellent. Nice. Well, thanks a lot, Rod.
Appreciate your time, Rod.
Thank you, buddy.
Thank you, fellows.
No worries.
Wow, that was a pretty cool interview. I mean, I've been looking to do an interview with Rod for a while, thinking it'd be a good one to, And some of the insights that we got out of him was quite interesting. I didn't expect at the end of that to talk about machine learning.
Yeah.
Hey, because you think, next app, next next plugin. Mm-hmm. He's got a whole plugin ecosystem out there. But now, we learning. That's going to be very interesting.
It is, isn't it?
Can't wait to see what they do with it.
Yeah, it's going to be very cool. So thank you, Rod, for that. Next week we have an interview with Oren. Oren she's the start of our female rundown to the end of Christmas. So it's going to be women all the way from now until Christmas, which is fantastic. And Oren has some views.
She's
and it's fantastic.
She knows a lot too. She's got an opinion, but it's actually educated opinion.
That's correct.
Yeah, very good.
And hopefully, we're talking with Oren to see if she would love to do a regular slot on the show. So hopefully in the new year we'll be able to make that happen. I know she's keen, so that would be fantastic.
Absolutely.
So that's next year.
Next week.
Next year for regular. Next week.
I see what you're saying.
For Oren. Totally, yes.
We were almost professional for a minute.
We were. So you're listening to this either through our, I suppose, traditional home.
Regularly scheduled program.
Of #Me Radio, which is fantastic, and we still love the guys. But we've also opened up our own new home, and this is our first podcast that we're really advertising that we have our own place now.
We've just cleaned up the place. We built it, we tidied it up, and now we're ready to show people that we've got this place.
So there's two ways that you can subscribe to the podcast, as we say on this recording. There's still the traditional #Me, and we love those guys, and it will always be on there as long as they love us still.
Yep.
And we will have our own show and our own subscription. And at the moment, there'll be no difference. Why would you change? The answer is, you wouldn't.
Yeah.
In the future, who knows? Maybe we'll have longer interviews, or we might do some slightly different ones on our own feed. Also, you may discover that we're appearing in other people's podcasts. So we're sticking ourselves everywhere. We're slutting ourselves out.
That's what we do.
Yeah. And what we're going to do is on accessgranted.nz, we're going to have a whole bunch of links to say, if you want to listen to us in the purest form, this is how you can subscribe on iTunes and Pocket Casts and all the other places that we'll be on. But if you are listening through #Me, as I am, to be fair, at the moment,
yes, same.
It all works fine and dandy. Mm-hmm. But we will be changing over time.
Yeah,
but not
we're growing, right? We were new back in the day, which was only a year ago. Back in the day, we're new at this, and now we're a bit more mature and doing other things.
Yes. So there you go. Just so you know that we are currently in 2 places. We intend to be in not just 2 places. We're not moving from one to the other. We're going to be in 3 places, and 4 places, and 5 places.
That's right.
But we're currently in 2 places. Enjoy the show. So find us on the social networks. Look for the podcast on Twitter at AccessGrantedNZ. And the best way to chat with us is to use Twitter. I am at Miramar Mike.
And I'm at NZ Raj. And please rate us on iTunes. We beg of you, please rate us on iTunes. Thanks for your time, and see you next Tuesday for the Kiwi Tech people sharing their own stories.
Ka kite no.